Coucou les amis, c'est Welva. J'espère que vous allez bien. There are three groups of verbs in French. The first group, the second group, and the third group. Today we are going to see the first groups of verbs in French. So what are these verbs? Most verbs in French fall into this category of verbs. These verbs from the first group have their infinitive form ending with er. They have their present participle as ant, an. They have a regular pattern of conjugation. Example: chanter, aimer, pleurer, manger. So if we take chanter, chanter has er in its infinitive form, that is, the form in which it is not conjugated. And if I want to form the present participle of chanter, I will just have to add ant at the end. So I will have chantant, by singing en chantant. So that is it for the first group. But how are they conjugated in the present tense? To conjugate these verbs in the present tense, you start by writing out the personal pronouns. You drop the er of the infinitive form. You maintain the radical. And you add the corresponding ending to the personal pronouns. E, es, e, ons, ez, ent. Let's take examples. Parler, to speak. You write the personal pronouns first. Je, tu, il, elle, nous, vous, il, elle. After that, what do? The second one was to drop the er at the end. So I will drop the er and I will maintain the other letters. Those letters will form the radical. I maintain the radical. After that, I have to add the ending, corresponding ending. The E is for the je, the es is for the tu, and so on. So we say, je parle, or je parle, tu parles, il parle, elle parle, nous parlons, vous parlez, il parle, elle parle. For the verb aimer, to love, the verb aimer starts with a vowel. So instead of having je for the personal pronoun, the first personal pronoun, we are going to have j apostrophe. So it is j, m. You maintain the radical first. Maintain the radical for all of the personal pronouns. And then you add the corresponding ending for the personal pronouns. So it will be j'aime, tu aimes, il aime, elle aime, nous aimons, vous aimez, ils aiment, elles aiment. So the J apostrophe can also be used for verbs that starts with a silent H. For example, we have hésiter, to hesitate. Aller is a verb that has er in its infinitive form, but it is not a verb from the first group. It is an irregular verb, so it falls in the third category of verbs. Is that okay? All right. So, there are exceptions to this conjugation pattern. And the first one we are going to say is the verbs that end with cer. Example, commencer. Je commence. Tu commences. Il ou elle commence. Nous comment. Vous comment. Il ou elle commence. So the exception here will be to introduce a CCD in the nous. So you have to drop the C. You introduce a CCD. Why? To soften the sound. If you don't introduce the CCD, it will be nous commençons. And it doesn't really make sense. So when you introduce the CCD, it gives it an S sound. Nous commençons. But the vous, you maintain the C. Vous commencez. The second exception are the verbs that end with GER. Example, manger. So let's have the normal pattern of conjugation. Je mange, tu manges, il ou elle mange, nous mange, vous mange, il ou elle mange. So for the no with mang, with the verb manger, you are going to introduce an E in between the G and the O. If you have listened to my video on the G sound, you are going to realize that when the G is followed by an O, it has a G sound. That will be mangon. But to have the J sound, mange, mangeons, you have to introduce an E in between them. So that is why the no will have, the E will be introduced there. So we have nous mangeons. But the voice, okay, vous mangez. Is that okay? The third exception will be with the verbs that end with O, ye, or U, ye. Example, noyer, appuyer. The Y is going to change to I. So all the pronouns except the nous and the vous. Let's take example, appuyer, to press. J'appuie, tu appuies, il ou elle appuie, nous appuyons, vous appuyez, il ou elle appuie. J'appuie, the Y is replaced with an I. But for nous appuyons, the Y is not replaced, it is intact, it doesn't change. For nous and for vous. Fourth exception, the verbs that end with AYER. So for this verb, you can either keep the Y or you replace it with an I. It depends on you. Example, payer. Je paye. Tu payes. Il ou elle paye. Nous payons. Vous payez. Il ou elle paye. So you can change the Y to I or you maintain the Y in other pronouns. But for nous and vous, the Y is kept. It is not changed. The next exception will be the verbs that end with E, consonant ER. Example, lever, mener. So a grave accent is introduced for all the pronouns except nous and vous. Just when you are trying to conjugate, just try and see, okay, what is happening with the nous? What is happening with the vous? It will help you. So, lever, that is to lift. The V between the E and the ER. Mener, the N between the E and the ER. So if I want to conjugate lever, how will I do it? So you have to introduce a grave accent, that's the E sound. Je lève. Tu lèves. Il ou elle lève. Nous levons. Vous levez. Il ou elle lève. So the nous and the vous, they will maintain the normal lever, no accent. But for the other ones, you are going to introduce this grave accent. Is that okay? But there will be what? There will be an exception to this rule. Exception with the verbs jeter and appeler. So the last consonant is going to be doubled, except for the nous and the vous. Let's take jeter. Je jette, tu jettes, il jette, nous jetons, vous jetez, il ou elle jette. You see that the double T gives it a grave accent sound. Je jette, air sound, je jette, tu jettes. But when it comes to the nous, you are not going to double the T. The T remains single. Nous jetons, vous jetez. So the last exception will be with the verbs that end with A, consonant ER. Example, compléter, céder. So let's take compléter. So the acute accent in compléter is changed to a grave accent, except for the nous and the vous. Je complète. You see, it was complété. But when you're conjugating, you have to change that A to E. Je complète. Tu complètes. Il ou elle complète. Nous complétons. Vous complétez. Il ou elle complète. Is that okay? So the nous and the vous, no change, but the other ones you have to change it and introduce words an sound. Alright, I hope you liked the video. So the exercise will be, what's your favorite verb in this group? And do you know how to conjugate it in the present tense? You can drop your comment in the comment section. See you. Bye-bye.